Hello, my name is Alejandro Jimenez, and in this lesson I will be talking about areas and perimeters of rectangles. In this lesson we will talk about what the perimeter of a rectangle is. We will talk about how to use the equation for the perimeter of a rectangle. We will talk about what the area of a rectangle is as well. We will also talk about how to use the equation to solve for the area of a rectangle. And then we will solve word problems using the equations for area and perimeter of rectangles. So the first thing I want to talk about is the perimeter of a rectangle. So the perimeter is going to be the length of the whole uh, border of the rectangle. And so in order to solve that, all we would have to do is to find the perimeter. We would take the distance in that length and we would add it to the distance in that width on that side. We would also add the distance in that length and the distance in this last width. Adding all those distances together would give us the total for the perimeter. For a rectangle, another equation that we can use would also be that since this length and this length are the same in a rectangle, we can say that we have two lengths, and to that we could add this width and this width together because again they are the same in this rectangle, so we could say that we have two widths. Therefore, the other equation we could use for a rectangle would be two lengths plus two widths. A quick example. Um, so let's say we have the length and the width of this rectangle, and so how would we find the perimeter? The first way we can do it is we could take this length, which would be 10, and we can add this width to it, which we know is going to be 4. We could then add this length to it, which is also 10, and we could add this last width to it, which is 4. And so doing the math, that gives us 14 plus 14, which means that the perimeter would be 28. Another way that we can do it would be using the other equation. We could say that we have two lengths, which would be 2 times 10, and we will add the 2 times 4 to that. Solving this equation gives us 20 plus 8, which means the perimeter is 28. Next, I want to talk about areas of rectangles. So what is the area of a rectangle? The area of a rectangle is going to be everything inside of the rectangle. And so we measure this by with units squared or squared units. And so what that means is how many square units fit inside of the rectangle. Would be another way to explain it. And so the way that we figure this out is that we take the number of units lined up in the length and we multiply that by the number of units in the width. Very important to remember that the units should always be squared when doing the area. So if the unit is feet, then the answer would be feet squared. Centimeters would be centimeters squared. Meters would be meters squared, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's do an example and find the area of this rectangle. So in order to find the area, we're going to take the length, which in this case is 10, and we're going to multiply it by the width, which is 4, which means that the area of this rectangle is going to be 40. And because we don't have our units, we're going to call it 40 units squared. Okay, so now let's solve a couple of these word problems. We'll read this first one. It says, a farmer needs to buy fencing to go around his garden. The garden is 200 feet long by 150 feet wide. How much fencing will he need? So in this first sentence, if we look at the words go around, we could take that to mean that he's trying to find the perimeter. So we know that we're going to be finding the perimeter for this. In order to find the perimeter, we need to look for other information that we know. We know that the garden is 200 feet long. So we know this is going to be 200 feet. And we also know that it is 150 feet wide. So this is going to be 150 feet. So which equation can we use to solve this? Well, we know that both lengths are going to be the same. So we can say that 2 times 200 can be added to the 2 times 150. So in order for I to find this perimeter, we would take 2 times 200, which is 400. And we would add it to 300. And we would know that his perimeter would be 700. And now, because it is a perimeter, we know that it's just going to be feet. Okay. Let's do another one. The other one says Norman is a sunflower farmer. He uses a plot of land that is 3 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide. How much land does he use for his sunflowers? So now if we take the word how much land, we can assume that we are trying to find the area. Other information we know is that it's going to be 3 kilometers long, so 3 kilometers, and 4 kilometers wide, so 4 kilometers. In order to find the area, then we're going to take the 3 kilometers and we're going to multiply by the 4, and that's going to give us an area of 12 kilometers. And we know that it's going to be squared kilometers because it is the area, so it's kilometers squared. What we've talked about. So now we know that the perimeter of a rectangle is the border around the rectangle. The area of a rectangle is everything that is inside of that rectangle. We know that the equation to solve for the perimeter is 2 lengths plus 2 widths. We know that the equation to solve for the area is length times width.